Hello everyone, my name is Alex Boerescu and I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant at Appian based out of London, UK. It's my pleasure today to introduce you into how you can filter an editable grid in Appian. Now, I have chosen for this specific example a very business critical use case, managing your grocery lists. So as you can see here, I do have one grocery list with a description. And if I jump into it, I'm going to see the items in my grocery list, like Pink Lady apples, carrots, apple juice, etc. Their measurement units, quantity, and prices. You might remember from previous Appian videos, previous Appian community videos, that my colleagues have taught you how to create an editable grid. We're quickly going to go through that again, but this time we're going to use the cheat code. We're going to let Appian automatically create the editable grid, and we will try to apply a filter to that grid. As you may know, applying user filters to read-only grids works out of the box and seamlessly. But for editable grids, you have to kind of do it by hand. So we're going to see how that's achievable in Appian. But before doing that, let's try to add some more content to our grocery list record type over here. So I'm going to quickly jump into my Appian application and open my grocery list record. Now I am using Data Fabric, and this comes with a lot of features and functionalities that make my life easier from a development perspective, but also from a business user perspective, because we're able to show multiple pieces of data to a user coming from different data sources. If we look at the diagram over here, we see that we have a data model, we have a grocery list that's linked to a grocery list item record, and also to a reference data, the status for that specific grocery list. Now, one of the latest features that Appian has released, if I'm not mistaken, in the 24.2 release, was to generate sample data using AI. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I do have the option of generating sample data for my related record as well, that being the list item. So I have this checked out of the box. And don't get that scared about this data model, because it basically shows all the records that are connected to each other. And this big graph appears here because my main user record is connected to all of these other use cases. Data Fabric in a nutshell. Let's click next and see exactly what data AI will generate for us. Now this is great for pre-sales when we have to invent data, but it's also great for testing or QA environments where you don't have to bring data in from production and sanitize it. You can just generate it with AI. So I'll have 10 records over here, and then for my list item, I will say that I want at least three for each of them. So I'll have to go ahead and refresh all data. Now there are other options. You can select exactly which item from which field from your record to be generated. Of course, the primary key and foreign keys, they have to be there by mandatory, but then you can say, I don't want the bot fields to be generated. But I'm happy with what we have so far. So I'm just going to go ahead and insert these pieces of data in my record. So if we go back on our home page and refresh our record, there you go. We now have multiple grocery lists. Oh, I see Kramer has a list here. That's obsolete. Oh, I was expecting Kramer to order some papaya, but he didn't. Anyway, moving on. Let's go back to our record and generate the actions. Now, I like to automatically generate the actions because this will generate all the objects behind the scenes. The interfaces, the expression rules, the process models, and then it's way easier for me to go ahead and update them rather than start from scratch. Additionally, you'll see that on certain interfaces, Appian will also generate that editable grid that I so need to work with. So I don't have to start from scratch as you've seen in previous Appian community videos. This will just take a couple of seconds now to generate the object. And there we go. We have the create action, the delete, and the update action. Now, what I want to do is on my home page, which is a pretty basic landing page for our application, we don't need anything else. I will add the action on my read-only grid over here to be able to add one new record or one to create a grocery list in our case. So let's just wait for a second and we'll scroll down to the record actions, add an action, go into the record action item, search for my grocery record, which is the grocery list, and I'll add the new grocery list. I'll save this and close this tab. I've noticed with Appian that you have to have great tab management skills because all these objects open in new tabs, so you could easily get lost in the tabs that get created. Let's see, if we do a quick refresh, there we go, our new grocery list item. So this will now pop up the interface that I was mentioning. So we've got the title, description, location, date, status, and the editable grid, the one that we so wanted. So if we look at this, we've got the ID that's going to be read-only because it's going to be populated by the database, the item, the measurement, unit ID, quantity, price, and if it's bought or not. What we're going to do next is go ahead and tidy up this interface and then add the filter to be able to filter this specific grid. So I'll go ahead and cancel this. Move back to Appian Designer, refresh my list of objects, and now we see all the objects that have been created. Now the create and or update interface is just one. We haven't created two of them. So let's see how we can go ahead and tidy up this a bit. So first of all, I do like to update this section layout. So we'll call these grocery list items. Then, as you might have noticed, when we add a new row, we have here a reference of the measurement unit ID. So it's not that clear for the user what it has to do, right? You're not expecting for a kilogram to put a 1 or for a liter to put a 2. So let's try to bring in a drop-down, make it easier for the user to select the measurement unit ID. Now, what I like to do is just go ahead and search for a component that I need. This is called dropdown. I'll just put it above the list here. And I will go ahead. First thing that I like to do is update the label. So I'll call this the MU dropdown. Now, the reason why I like to update the labels, even though I'm not using them, and I will actually hide it, is because when you get an error in Appian, that red error, it's going to tell you the drop-down item with label dropdown has an error. And if you have multiple drop-downs with the same label, it's kind of hard to identify sometimes. So best practice, just label them with a relevant name, so it's easier for you to identify where the error is. Now, another feature that was introduced by Appian recently was the ability to map a record type to a drop-down rather than manually providing the labels, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'll select the record type option, and I'll go ahead and select SEG, which is the prefix of my application. And I actually have here the measure unit record type, which I'm using as a reference data. It automatically picks the value for choice labels and ID for choice values, which is fine. All good. Now, what I'm going to do is open this in expression mode, and I am going to copy it and remove it from my interface. I'm going to quickly switch now to expression mode and replace the input text that we have over here with what we've just created. Now, another great feature that Appian has introduced recently was when you're in expression mode and you click on an object, a component on your screen, the expression, the interface definition takes you automatically to that line of code. So you don't have to scroll and guess exactly where you're at. But let's go ahead and do some updates. Now, while we're here, why don't we just go ahead and update this? So we'll remove the ID from the label, just call it measure. I think measurement unit is the correct term. And if I scroll down in my for each, so if you see here in previous videos, you knew that you had to do a for each and loop over the items that you want to show in your editable grid. Now it does loop over the record, its relationship with the grocery list items. Now, if we expand it over here, we see that there's a new record created within our main record, which is the grocery list item, because we've added the add row. We've clicked on the add row button. Okay, let's go back to our measurement unit. So we have here a field, an integer field. So I will just go and put in my dropdown, put in a comma, and from this field, I will just copy the value and the save into. I'll cut it actually. And I will put it here in my dropdown. And I need to put a comma. So let's see how that looks like. So now we have our dropdown. I can select the value. It's either piece, kilogram, or liter. Of course, you can add multiple if you want to. Other measurement units I'm in. But now if I select kilogram, for instance, here, we see that it's correctly reflected on the right side of our rule input, and it is the ID 2. Now you might notice something here, that there's an orange icon, like these lines over here. If our record would have been populated with other values, or this would be the update screen where we already have a populated record, this will mark exactly what fields you've changed in the interface. That's great for debugging. This is another feature that was added in the last couple of releases of Appian. Okay, so we've got our measurement unit over here. We've got item, quantity, price. Do we need to tidy up anything? I'd remove ID, but just leave it in now for now. Great, we don't need to add anything else. We just need to add our filter. So going back to design mode, we'll create a local variable, and I will call it selected MU. And in this variable, in this local variable, I will store the selected value from my dropdown or from my filter. And to apply the filter, I will also add a dropdown in, and I will put this above my grocery list item. There we go. And of course, I will provide it a relevant name. It will be filter MU, and I will highlight the label. I will go, and as placeholder, I will specify filter by MU. My selected variable value will be the local variable that I've just created, and I'll also save the selection in the same variable. And now, similarly with the other dropdown, I'll just map it to the record type. And SEG. Grocery list measure unit. Now you could specify the values and the labels as directly in the component, but what happens is, what if you add a new component? What if you add a new measurement unit? Then you have to go and update your variables, your components. Now using reference data is way better. I don't really like the way it looks, so I will just go ahead and put a column layout over here, and I will drag my drop down within the first column. So now it looks a bit tidier. Great. Let's see how this works. Now, another thing that I love about Appian is that you can test right here in the development environment. You don't have to compile, you don't have to run a web server, anything. Well, it is running on a web server somewhere because it's in the cloud, but I can just see directly what I'm building. So if I select kilogram here, my selected MU is not there. Let's see why. Yes, so these values got overwritten when I changed the data source. So let's go ahead and map them again. I'll do selected MU and selected MU. Should work fine now. If I go ahead and select a piece, I've got 1 here, and if I select a letter, I've got number 3 here. Good. Let's add a couple of more rows and see how this works. So I will do here 2 kilograms and a piece. Good. So how do we filter now? Now, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to move back to the expression mode. So in our editable grid, where we iterate through the grocery list items over here, we can see that we create grid row layouts. So if we minimize the content, most of Appian components have a property called showWhen. So this is a Boolean type of an expression that you can provide to show or hide a specific item on the screen. Now, of course, you could do an if. So if condition, then show that row, or if not condition, don't show anything. But I highly recommend you always use the showWhen because the code is cleaner. I'm not sure about performance, but definitely it looks cleaner and it's easier to debug by your fellow colleagues. So let's put a comma here and provide the showWhen parameter. Now, where are we going to show this specific row? So we are going to show it in when the grocery list item is going to match our measurement unit from our list. So let's think about it a bit. What if we don't select anything? So if we don't select anything, then definitely we're going to have to see if our list is empty, if our variable of filter is empty. So let's go ahead and put that condition there. So if is null or empty, there's a function of our local selected mu, local variable selected mu. If it's null or empty, I'm gonna show them. So now it's not null or empty. So if I remove my filter, there are no more filters here. We can clearly see that we show all of the items. But if we go ahead and show and select kilogram, for instance, we're not showing anything. So then we have to update our condition. Now, if it's null or empty, or we can use the or here. Let's put a comma and close the parenthesis. Or then we have to actually see if those two variables equal. So our local selected measurement unit equals, and I'm going to go ahead and copy something from here. I'm a huge fan of copy paste because it saves so much time. So we're going to compare it with the ID. So we're going to look at our dropdown. Where do we save the value? We're saving it in fbang item measure unit ID. Let's go ahead and minimize this again. So if showWhen, it is over here. If our selected mu equals the current measure unit ID. Great. So let's see how that works. Minimize this a bit. We've selected kilogram. We can see the kilogram over here. We have selected piece. We have the piece item, and later we don't have anything. It's working fine by now. So yeah, that's about it. Let's go ahead and save this and see how it looks like in real life. Go back to home page and let's jump into my Sundays list, for instance. And we've got 4 items here. And if I go back home and yes, let's update this one. So related actions, and I'll try to update my grocery list. Let's see if this works. So I've got kilograms, species, and liters. So I want to see all the items by piece. Organic soap, 2. Let's update this to 4. We need 4 more. Yeah, it updates correctly at the right index. And carrots, let's go for kilograms. And I'll update the price for carrots to 3. And that also works fine. Awesome. So you see how easy it is to add filters. Now, if you want to add filters based on item or quantity, or if it's bought or not, It's the same principle. It's just that you do have to update the showWhen condition accordingly. Maybe play around with the and or the or conditions to build up your case. Or there are many ways of improving it, right? If we select kilograms here, for instance, and we add a row, it's not going to show up here. Or actually, it's going to show up here because it's going to refresh my my filter. So that works fine. Okay, I thought it's not going to show here and I'll have to remove the filter, but that works pretty nice. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I hope this has been helpful. Now, if you like this kind of content, please go ahead and like the video, and please use the comments section to provide your feedback or to ask for more topics. If you want us to build something for you or show you how something gets done, we can think about it and come back with a video that hopefully is going to be helpful for you. Again, my name is Alex. I'm a senior solutions consultant for Appian UK. It's been a pleasure to walk you through how to add a filter on the editable grid in Appian, and I hope you found this valuable. Take care and see you later.